This podcast replay, it's brought to you by Moodius Dental. For over 30 years, they've been using the latest dental technology to give their patients the smile they've always wanted. Start the year right like I did by calling 305-821-0231 or visit moodiusdental.com. Now we are going to do our weekly segment that we do with Manny Navarro, our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report with Manny Navarro. Yeah. There it is. All about the you. You say it. Oh, it's all about the you. There you go, Manny. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. Oh, how are you?
Very good. Remember, you can follow Manny Navarro on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Catch his work there at The Athletic. And, of course, it's all brought to you by Caneswear at 2511 South University Drive in Davie. Plenty of Canes here, man. I saw Zoe talking with Dan Morgan, who works for the Bills. So we get some here. Now, talking about that, Manny, the story with Alonzo Highsmith, I got to tell you, I've changed my tune from some of the stuff that I've been hearing. I'm actually liking the idea now of Zoe coming to the University of Miami. What do you think about that crazy idea?
About having him come to the University of Miami? I mean, who wouldn't want his experience and talent evaluation on staff? I think there's no question about that. I think the issue was always, how do you give him some power? How do you give him some say in what's going to happen with Miami? And my understanding from my previous conversation with Zoe was that's what he wanted. He wanted to be in a position where he could have some influence. And so unless things are changing behind the scenes where all of a sudden, people are willing to cede some power and to allow Alonzo to really put his fingerprint on things, then maybe things will be different.
Yeah, and we'll find out now from Zoe if, eventually he gets this gig. But I think it is a position that he will have power and he will have influence. And if that's the case, then I actually don't mind now that I'm thinking about it, because after kind of going over this stuff, Manny needs to be policed. And unfortunately, there were too many examples this year of that showed that he wasn't prepared for this job. And so, you and I have talked about this. Blake is not really a guy that has a lot of football knowledge. So he needs somebody in there that has that football knowledge. The program needs that there, because Blake's really not going to know what's wrong unless it's so obvious. And you got to be good to know when things are starting to go awry so you can nip them in the bud. But only a football person is going to figure that out. That's the reason why, because there isn't another football person there that can answer to Manny.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that, look, again, the whole concept is, do you have enough football people in the building that can help Manny as a head coach? And we've talked about this 1,000 times on your show. This job is for a Jedi Master. The challenges that it brings, especially, the struggles that this program has been through the last 15, 16 years. Having a guy who knows what it's like to build a championship winner in place, either an athletic director role or a head coach role, is pivotal. And, Blake, as I've told you many times, his specialty is fundraising. He's not a football guy per se. But again, if you're going to bring Alonzo in, I don't think bringing him in as just, the whatever the title was, chief of staff for football, unless that position has some teeth and some say and he's able to have real influence, I just don't see what the benefit is, because, again, that position, chief of staff, essentially is like a secretary for Manny Diaz, a guy who handles a lot of the other stuff so he can go coach football. And so I don't know. I mean, I have yet to hear a breakdown, a power structure that works, in terms of what they're willing and accepting to do, to allow Alonzo to come in and be the kind of guy that he can be and help this program. But I never hated the idea. I just always I was the execution of it, of how that was going to work. And I think, of course it would help to have him in there. I mean, the guy has great relationships in the community. You're talking about ways that he can help recruiting and convince parents that, hey, this thing really is headed in the right direction. We don't just have a rookie head coach here who's, learning through mistakes. We have an experienced guy. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to like it. I never said I didn't like it for that reason. I just said I didn't think they could execute it because of the politics.
Yeah, and I didn't like it because I thought it was kind of a token position, but I don't think it's going to be a token position. And if it's not going to be a token position, then I'm good. Then I really like it because, unfortunately, Manny needs to be policed. And that's the reason why I'm at that point. It's not in a perfect world, I'd rather see Zoe stay in the NFL and hopefully get a GM job like he deserves. But if this is something where he's going to have influence and things aren't going well and he's able to make the changes that you need, plus let's say the Manny thing doesn't work out and you got to search for a new coach down the line, a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. Well, I'd rather count on Alonzo Highsmith to do that than anybody else in the University of Miami program. That's all.
I'm in agreement with you. I mean, again, it's almost though as you're breaking the traditional power structure. There,
yes.
Where you go from an athletic director and head coach, and now it's three chefs in the kitchen. But if those three chefs are all willing to make it work, and Zoe really is given the authority, I'm with you.
And listen, in the end, it's really two chefs because, come on, man, Blake James might have an opinion, but he doesn't really know what the hell he's doing when it comes to sports. So it's better that and I think that's why this idea of Zoe is being brought in because they actually, to UM's credit, they probably realize that they don't have a somebody strong enough with a football opinion there.
Right. Well, that's good. I hope they're recognizing it, and I hope they're doing something about it.
All right. So talk to me a little bit about any new news this week recruiting-wise for the Canes.
Well, I mean, we knew this was coming as far as the kicking position, but it's an important position that finally got addressed officially with Jose Borregales, the transfer signing. And it's a really good pickup, a really good story. I actually was talking with one of the local kicking coaches who discovered him and his brother Andy. Andy, of course, the class of 2021 kicker, the number one kicker in the country in that class, who's going to be coming in after him. And, Jose's a guy who always wanted to play for the Hurricanes and, ended up signing with FIU because they were the only school to offer him a scholarship. It's such a hard sort of path, as a kicker to get a scholarship nowadays because there's a lot of guys who are pretty good at it. And, I think Miami sort of had this stance where they wanted to go out of state to find kickers. And they didn't really need Borregales at the time. And so, he had to kind of wait his turn. And now it's kind of a cool little story where you're going to have, Borregales, Jose, the graduate transfer kicking, handling all those field goals and being the kicker next year. And you're going to have his little brother, Andy, coming in the year right after to take over. And, talking to that kicking coach, and this is a kid, Jose's a kid now that he told me feels comfortable making them from 60 to 65, when they're in practice. He's got a really strong leg. He's gotten a lot better over the year. I think he was 21 of 29 last season at FIU, but made a 53-yarder against Miami, and the kid's confidence is rising. And he's another guy who will probably be an NFL kicker in a year. So it's a really important pickup for Miami to get that finalized, to get him through the doors after everything they went through with the kicking situation last year. And now the focus is offensive line, quarterback, and cornerback. All three of those areas are where you're hearing most of the names, in terms of who Miami is interested. I've talked to a few guys that are obviously involved with the transfer portal that help kids end up at other schools. And, the quarterback position is very important for Miami. They're really trying to get a good graduate transfer quarterback to come in and lead the room so that they can buy Tyler Van Dyke some time and not have to count on Jaron Williams or N'Kosi Perry or any of those guys that have let them down in the past. So I think, Derek King is the new hot name everybody got all excited about yesterday, the quarterback from Houston. He's 5'10". He's not very tall, but he is freakishly gifted in terms of athleticism. And when you look at this Rhett Lashley offense and what he might want to run here with Miami, the ability to have a running quarterback, I think, would be really, really huge. I think Lashley's offense is really built around the run and the pass second. It's about, being able to run that read option and having some explosive guys in the backfield. And Miami, obviously, is some really talented incoming freshmen at running back. And this Derek King kid, I think, who was a starter at Houston, would give them that element, more of what you saw when Lashley was at Auburn than he was at SMU. So, but we'll see. We'll see what they end up getting. I know King started following Lashley on social media. I think it was last week, and there's been conversations. But I think LSU is also showing some interest, especially now they're looking to fill that quarterback need. So we'll see if LSU becomes competition for Miami for Derek King.
Yeah, and you wrote about Garen Justice, the new offensive line coach. Overall,
yeah.
I mean, is this more of just wait and see, or how do you feel about these hires?
It's funny because, we all don't know. I mean, I don't know Garen Justice. I just sort of have started to get to know him now a little bit since he got the job over the weekend. But, talking to a couple of his former players, and you can go to theathletic.com and read the story. But I talked to a guy who started from his starting center at UNLV the last 2 seasons, a very smart kid, Sid Acosta, and left tackle who played for him at FAU when, FAU was 11-3 and very, very good. A local kid, Reggie Bain, who played at Miami Central and also wanted to be a Hurricane but didn't get an offer. He's a 4-year starter at FAU at left tackle. And the kid, both of those kids had nothing but really high praise. And the whole point of the article is really what Miami has wanted out of their offensive line coach the last couple of years is not just a guy who can be a teacher and raise the level of confidence of some of these guys, but also bond with them off the field. And I think if there was one criticism of Butch Berry is, look, the guy was a good teacher, and I had a couple of parents and players tell me they learned more with him than they ever did under Stacey Searles. The issue is, he's an NFL guy, and some of these kids need to have that special relationship with their offensive line coach. They need to feel loved. They need to feel like the guy has their best interests at heart. And I think, Butch Berry came in with that NFL mentality. Hey, this is what I'm teaching you. Do you get it? Do you get it? No? Okay, well, I'm only going to worry about the 6 guys who know what they're doing. And that's kind of how this season evolved, where you saw the same 6 guys going out there, and he kind of gave up on the other guys who couldn't pick it up. And that's the way it is in the NFL, right? That's the way NFL coaches are. Like, they're not going to waste their time with guys who can't get it right. They're going to play the best players. And so, but at Miami, where you had 51 sacks given up, where you struggled to run the football and ranked 120th on the run, and you've got 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that you're counting on, that you need a little bit more TLC, you need a little bit more relationship. And that's really what this Garen Justice guy is all about. His wife bakes cookies for the players every Friday on their travel day, and she brings the daughter over, and there's this family atmosphere, where the players get to know them, and Coach Justice invites them to his house and takes them out to eat dinner, and it's a real relationship. And I think that kind of stuff nowadays is needed in coaching. I've heard a lot of older coaches who are just kind of old school. They want to do it the old school way. These younger guys, I think, understand, and that's what Garen understands. He was a 3-year starter at West Virginia, played on a Sugar Bowl winning team in 2011, was a 3-year starter at tackle, and he wasn't just a good player who knows what he's doing. He's also a player who understands what players want in terms of that coach relationship. So I think that's the reason you have to like the Garen Justice hire, because it sounds to me like he's a total package. He's not just a coach who's there to teach the kids and to get a paycheck. He's a guy who really invests his time in relationships, and all of his former players remain very close to him. He texts them, he'll call them, and so I think Miami got a good one here in Garen Justice, who's a very bright, young and upcoming coach at 37.
Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Catch his work at The Athletic. Manny, before I let you go, tell him about the podcast, my man.
Yeah, you want to make sure you tune into the Wide Right podcast, which we make available on Apple Tunes, and you can, and of course, when you get the subscription for $3 or $4 a month, whatever it is now, they got all kinds of sales. But you get the subscription to the Athletic. In addition to everything you get to read that I write and all of our Miami writers write, you get access to the entire website and my podcast, which we'll do 1 to 2 times a week. Right now in the off season, we're kind of limiting it to one. We usually do like a game preview during the season, but we talk about everything on there. And my buddy Kelvin Harris, who was on 3 national championship teams there at Miami, he and I talk quite a bit on there, and have opinions about a lot of the things going on with UM. So if you want more UM coverage besides these appearances I make here with Big O every week, be sure to check out the Wide Right podcast. It's there for your downloading pleasure.
There you go. And follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Catch his work at The Athletic and listen to the podcast. Manny, as always, you're a stud, my brother. Thank you for taking some time.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, man. Take care.
You got it, baby. You be good. There you go. The great Manny Navarro with our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report.